Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Desk. I'm Chad, Amy's over there, and today we're going to be talking about what it takes to travel to another country through the airport with a service dog. Hello, my dear.
Hola, mi amor.
How's it going?
Busy.
Busy.
We are so busy.
So we had our anniversary over the
We
weekend.
did.
We are going out of town tomorrow.
Yes.
So we have like a week's worth of stuff to do in 2.5 days.
Or shorter.
Yeah, or shorter.
Plus,
So
I hurt my back, and that was kind of and there's just some stuff.
Mine's a little twinged now.
Yeah.
So, and we had an event all day yesterday, so we lost half the day. But this is what we do.
This is what we do.
We grind so that we can have the life that we want to live.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any checkups on this little turd ball nugget who was snoozing? So we're not going to use the name today.
No, she's doing great.
She is doing great.
She is really doing great. We actually took her to at home the other day because I had to find something for a courageous voice for the event, and that was just a different store than she's normally in, and we had to wait an excruciatingly long time in line because a lady was returning. I don't know what all she was returning, but we were there.
I was eavesdropping. It was a combination of returns, exchanges, didn't have a receipt.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And then just
exchange. She had an exchange to do as well. It was something.
It was like 15 minutes.
It was 15, 20 minutes,
and
but it was
amazing.
Phenomenal. She laid in the floor. She was absolutely perfect.
And this is part of it. It's not just, you shouldn't just hop on a plane. You need to be conditioning your dog every day with different things, learning what their behaviors are, learning what works for them, what doesn't, because you probably could just hop on a plane, but then you're that person. We don't want to be that person. We want to be the people who have put our time in, put our effort in, did everything with the best effort to make sure everything's smooth, not just for us, but also the people that are affected by us.
But for Sadie too, because, when you have a dog that has anxiety or is nervous and scared and all of that, that's just not going to set anybody up for a good trip. And they could literally not allow us to board.
Right.
Even if she is a service dog.
I think she's going to be amazing. I think we're doing all the right things. And speaking of the right things, you have a packet that a staple couldn't even get through. There's so much. When it comes to traveling with this nugget, I keep wanting to call her a turd ball, but she's not. She's amazing. With this nugget, there's a lot of things. Not only just a lot of things logistically and training and equipment,
right,
but there's also paperwork that goes into this. And so today we're going to be touching on what it's like, what we need to prepare for, and what folks would need to prepare for to travel internationally through an airport with a service animal, with a task trained service animal. Because a lot of airlines are, I guess you could call it cracking down. They don't want people taking advantage of the system, and your service animal needs to be a task trained service animal. Right, and that's what she is. She has a task that she performs. You have something you have to recite in order to
verbatim.
Right? There's so much that goes into this.
Yes,
and because it's relatively new to us, and we decided we wanted to document our journey along the way, we're going to share a little bit of that. So,
yeah, we are.
What have you got for us?
Well, first off, like your service animal has to be certified as a service animal, and you can get that through your therapist. But it's a therapist that is allowed to certify for service dog. Not every therapist is allowed to do that. So you need to find one for that. And then, or if you go through your psychiatrist or doctor, right? So there's physical issues, and then there's also psych. So Sadie is a trained psych service dog. And so she helps me with a lot of different things, but she has one task that she has to perform. And if somebody asks me, they're allowed to ask me 2 questions. Is your dog a service dog? Yes. And then what is your service dog's task? That is literally all anybody is ever allowed to ask you here in the United States.
Now,
protected through the ADA.
If we've learned anything from YouTube, not everybody's educated on what they are and are not allowed to ask. And so people may go further, and it may turn into an unnecessary situation, but the end of the day, you're protected.
I am.
To answer 2 questions and 2 questions only, and if need be, escalate it because frankly, it's none of their business. It's protected by HIPAA. It is an ADA protection. There are so many levels to ensure that your health, your mental health, your physical health is not disclosed to people who don't need to know.
Right. Yeah, they're not allowed to ask me what's wrong with me, if you will. But you're going to have those people that are going to look at your dog and say, you just got your dog for this, or that's really a pet. She is a pet. She is one of the loves of our life. Like, she's amazing, but she has to work. When she has her vest on, she knows she has to work. And that's what she's trained to do. So
I love that about her because part of our training with her has also been differentiating the difference between going to work and you get to be a dog.
Yeah.
And we've been able to connect that with several things. Task as needed, wearing certain equipment. Even when we take her on daily walks,
her vest is on.
Because it's conditioning her, but also we are working her during the task. Because it's not just sitting on the couch as she performs it. She performs it anywhere we need to go. Right. So,
but when she has her vest on, Sadie knows it's time to go to work.
Right.
And that's really great.
Okay. So I guess I'll let you go through this just in order. Right. And first thing, right hand, what do you have there?
Well, we're going to go over this in a little bit.
Okay.
Because Sadie won't have to do this. But if you have a really long flight, and we'll talk about that in just a second, you'll have to have this form.
Got it. Okay, perfect.
So there is, let me put my readers on here.
Sexy specs.
Sexy specs. I like that. Thanks. So we're going to be flying American, but you have LATAM and you have all these other airlines. We're going to be flying out of Miami. So the airline that you choose, they have their own rules and regulations. So please look that up and find out for yourself. But today we're going to go over American Airlines and talk about flying with a service animal and what this looks like. Fully trained service dogs may fly in the cabin at no charge if they meet the requirements. And then there's a list of those requirements. I'm not going to read all of this verbatim. I really encourage you, again, to look up your own. But there are some things that I think we want to highlight around this: visual impairments, deafness, seizures, mobility impairments, post-traumatic stress disorder. So an individual with a disability, including a physical, sensory, psychiatric, intellectual, or other mental disability, including but not limited to the ones I just listed for you. So it could be those or other ones listed by your therapist, doctor, psychiatrist, whoever. Please note that service animals in training, emotional support animals, and comfort animals may travel as pets, not as a service animal. And all requirements and applicable fees will apply if that is the case. So if your service dog is in training, it will not be eligible to fly in the cabin with you like that, unless but it could be, if it's a really small dog, it has to go in a crate in at your feet or underneath the seat in front of you. But you have to also, there are other fees that apply to that. They have DOT service animal air transportation forms. This has all the links. This is found on American Airlines site under pets, or for us, it was service animals. And there's tons of forms and tons of things, whatever is applicable to you. So flights to the U.S., that's a whole different thing. And the CDC has things that you have to, guidelines and things that you have to go by there. But for us, we're going to Colombia. So flights over 8 hours. Now, the flight that Chad and I took last February, took us like 12 hours to get to Colombia.
Right. Between layovers and the multiple legs. Yep.
That is where this form right here comes in, and it is about flights that are over 8 hours, and it's called a relief attestation form. It's very simple and easy to fill out, but Sadie, if we were traveling like we did last, in February, or going to Spain or anywhere that's, long flights, layovers, things like that, you're going to have to fill this out. This is one of the reasons we chose to fly out of Miami, which is about a 3.5 hour flight. We don't have to complete that form. And Sadie can go hours and hours and hours without going to the restroom. Plus, you just don't give your dog water before the flight or during the flight. There's things that you can do, to help your dog out around that. That's very important to know if it's more than 8 hours. And then the instructions around that, you're going to complete this, complete the animal air transportation form. You have to submit this form at least 48 hours before your flight, and keep the form during your trip. So all of these documents we can submit online. Plus, we want to also carry a copy for ourselves. So a service animal ID, once you've submitted your form and it's been approved, they're going to send you an email with your animal ID. And you can use that ID when you're booking in the future. A service dog pass. I don't know if we're going to do this or not, probably not. But it's kind of like a passport for your service dog, and it just makes things easier. Or they say it makes things easier, but it has all your stuff like in one location and they can just pull it up. Travel requirements, Chad.
Yes.
Your animal must be harnessed, leashed, or tethered at all times. So it has to be connected to your handler, which I am Sadie's handler.
Right.
Animals 4 months of age or under may not travel as service dogs. I can't imagine a puppy being able to make it as a service dog. Like, they just have so much energy.
Right. Plus, they haven't gone through an actual training.
Correct.
Yet, right. It takes a lot of time.
It's very young.
Yeah.
Your animal must be cleaned and well behaved. So Sadie will be bathed the night before. She'll be dried. She'll be brushed. We're also gonna brush her before we even leave. She sheds a lot. I think she'll be in a good place when we leave. I don't know that she'll be shedding a whole lot at that time.
Yeah, she doesn't.
It's awful.
It's awful, but it's seasonal.
It is seasonal.
So once spring hits, it gets heavy, and
Holy
then once
moly.
winter hits, she has another.
I vacuum twice a day.
Yeah, because we're in the heat of it right now. But in 3 or 4 months, it'll definitely die down, and she'll be retaining their.
So it'll be better, but we still want to make sure that your dog's really well groomed. Their nails are cut, filed if they'll let you do that. Your animal must be able to fit at your feet, under your seat, or in your lap. Lap animals must be smaller than a 2-year-old child. So if that gives you any indication of how small that animal is. And Sadie obviously will not be riding in our lap, so she's going to lay at our feet. And Chad and I will be sitting side by side, so she will probably be on our feet, or we will have to be the ones to move around in order. And we're going to take a little blanket that actually goes in her bed, and so that's going to be her place. So Sadie's place trained. So if I say place, she knows where to go, and that's where she stays until she's released, usually. Not always. She has her moment.
Checking on her. She's crashed out from all the activity.
But if we're right with her, she'll stay.
Yeah.
So she will be on that blanket for the duration of the flight. Now, that's just something we're going to do. So it's really great to have a bed that you can fold up and carry, or, something, like that.
It's good comfort association as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So final approval for travel will not happen until you arrive at the airport and it's determined that the animal will safely fit at your feet. So they will make sure that Sadie can lay down at our feet and stay there. If it's in a kennel, it must fit underneath the seat, like I said earlier, or right in front of you. And an individual is limited to only 2 service animals. I didn't know somebody could have 2. This is for American Airlines.
Did you know a small horse can be considered a service animal?
So I heard that.
Interesting.
And I think that this is one of the reasons I think that Delta is kind of coming down on a lot of this stuff. Somebody had a pony, or a miniature pony. I don't know what it was, but there was like a llama. I don't remember what all it was, but I was like, are you for real?
Llamas they don't smell good either.
I don't remember if it was a llama. I may be incorrect, but it was something other than
not a dog,
not a domesticated animal.
Yeah.
So animals may not be seated in an exit row. Those have to remain clear, protrude or block aisles. So Sadie's tail cannot be hanging out, of the way. So if I'm in the middle and Chad's on the aisle, which is where he prefers to sit, and we have somebody else sitting at the window, Sadie cannot protrude into that person's space at the window. She has to stay between Chad and I, which means we are responsible for keeping her legs and tail tucked in, out of the row. Yeah. And so when she gets up or needs to be petted or kind of stretch a little bit and then lay back down, we are responsible for keeping her in the space of our two seats.
Right. Which I think having her, I guess we'll call it a fold-out bed, but like her blanket,
correct,
will help with that perimeter.
Size. Yeah.
Yeah.
She cannot occupy a seat, or they can't eat from tray tables. I mean, I think that's fair and common sense. You know, and if your animal is too big or too large or whatever, they're going to make other accommodations, and it really could be that your animal has to go into cargo, into a crate or something. So, animals must be trained to behave properly in public, and they won't be permitted in the cabin if they display any form of disruptive behavior that can't be successfully corrected or controlled.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I want to say something about that. So the interesting thing that goes through my head is that cannot be corrected or controlled, which means if Sadie gets a woo-woo, but we're able to correct it,
it's okay.
It's acceptable.
Sure.
Right? Because animals are animals. Yes, they're trained for certain tasks, but they are still animals. Right? So I believe that Sadie's going to do super well, but we have to immerse her into situations like going to the train station, maybe going to the airport a couple of times and finding out where we can walk her. Maybe it's baggage claim just to get her acclimated to 7,000 different smells. And so that's not the first time, right? We need to do our part. But even if she gets a little like that, that part where they say that it is correctable, I think that's really important.
It is important. And it's including but not limited to. So these three things that I'm going to give you are just three that they have listed. It could be something else that your dog does. And I'm also going to call the airport. I don't know if this is allowed or not, but I'm going to give it my best shot to see if there's a possibility that we can take Sadie to the airport and do a training session with her.
Yeah.
I think that would be super beneficial to her, and maybe wait until like October, 1st of November, something like that, a month out before we fly, just so she can see, we can see how she does. Next Sunday, we're actually going to do some elevator training with her. Although she's been on an elevator before, we want to make sure that she knows how to enter, she knows how to act, and ride that elevator. And we may have to do it. We may do it 5 times.
Right.
Right. And also, we are working with her right now on complete strangers coming up to her with her vest on, so she knows she's working, and them touching her, feeling her, going underneath her, because a TSA officer will be doing that. They will be patting her down, making sure that there's no bomb residue and all those kinds of things. And
nothing hidden.
Nothing hidden. And we want Sadie to be calm and relaxed. And honestly, she loves it, because once you put your hands underneath that vest, she's just like, oh, this feels so good.
Right.
So she's not reactive in any way. So growling, biting, or attempting to bite, jumping on or lunging at people. Now, that's a key one, because a lot of dogs jump on people. They get excited. And Sadie does do that a little bit. So this is something we're going to be spending the next 6 months working on.
And part of that is something that she's been trained on from when we first got her, which was a command when she's demonstrating behavior that we don't want, unwanted behavior. And so we have a command that if it's something we don't like, that we give her, that is to say, what you're doing is not acceptable. Mm-hmm. And so she's already preconditioned, because she went through so much training, and it's constantly reinforced every day. Yeah. So that's also a heads up to, even if she does want to play and be a dog, we have the ability to recall her and get her back to where she is.
That, and we usually place her, especially when we have people coming over here. And it's different, obviously, in the home, where this is her safe space, as opposed to being, out in a public setting.
Right.
So she doesn't jump on people in public settings.
Right.
So I think we're going to be okay. But just so everybody else knows, there are destinations with restrictions. Fortunately, Colombia is not one of them. Hawaii, London, Scotland, Edinburgh, Scotland, and all other destinations within the United Kingdom. Ireland, India, Japan, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Ghana. Did I say that right? Ghana. Anyway, so, again, this is for American Airlines. these are their rules and regulations. So check out the airline that you want to choose. If we were taking LATAM, it might be quite different. And I'm telling you, LATAM airplanes are nice. They are big. There's room. I was really pleasantly surprised.
Very similar to a Delta flight.
Bigger. It was bigger than the Delta planes. Yeah. I didn't feel nearly as cramped. There was definitely more leg room.
More leg room, yeah.
Yeah. So the next thing is the actual certificate that your special veterinarian has to complete. I'm grateful to say that our vet, he is a USDA vet, so he can complete this for Sadie with that stamp. And this will be her certificate to travel with. Like, we have to have this. So this would be uploaded to that pass that we were talking about earlier, like that passport kind of a deal. But then you want to carry the original with you as well.
I just want to touch really quickly. So our vet actually is putting together our checklist of things that we need. And when you gave him our travel date, he said, great timing. We need to start now.
Yep.
So currently
6 to 9 months out, you need to start working with your veterinarian for international travel.
So you're not going to just jump into something, I want to go somewhere in 2 months. If you haven't done these processes yet, you may not be able to.
And the reason for that, Chad, is because of vaccinations and tests for worms and things like that. So, all of that, we need to make sure that while we're gone for 3 months, that Sadie doesn't need anything from the veterinarian. Like, she has her heartworm cat thing that she's taken she's on Simparica Trio, by the way, now, which is amazing. So that's the reason why you want to wait. It's like 6 to 9 months out to make sure that vaccinations are done. And fortunately, Sadie's yearly vax come up October, like closer to the end of October, actually. Yep. So she's going to be ready to go, freshly done. Yep. But then there's 10 days out that this certification has to be done by that USDA vet. 10 days before you fly out.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then now you have the USDA veterinarian, accredited veterinarian. You can go online and look in your area to see if there's a USDA vet nearby you, but you must, if you're traveling across the country, across the pond or wherever, you need to have that done. This information you're going to need to gather. Luckily, our vet obviously has all of Sadie's information, but say your veterinarian is not accredited through the USDA, you're going to have to get all of your information about your pet to that accredited vet. The type of pet traveling and the destination country. Countries where your pet will stop for customs clearance upon leaving the airport or seaport. If you're on, a cruise or something like that. On the way to your destination country, and then the date of departure from the U.S. So you have to have all of that for your vet that they wouldn't typically have. Right. There's tons of information, on this site. This is specific for Colombia, and it's on the USDA website. So, I literally put in pet travel from the United States to Colombia, and that is actually the
that's awesome.
H1 title there, so knowing what to ask, making sure you're asking Google, putting in that right question so that you get the best results. Listen, I'm already talking SEO stuff, aren't I?
That's how we help our clients.
That's how we help our clients, yeah. So, and then they have travel requirements based on pet type. This is about Colombia specifically. Colombia will reject pets that do not meet the requirements of the posted health certificate. Personal pet dogs or cats do not need an import permit. If you're importing, that's a whole nother thing, which we're not doing that. So your pet must travel with at least one photocopy of the original health certificate. So if you need more than one, ask that USDA certified vet for more than one original copy, because it will have a certain stamp on it.
I'll tell you, with our marriage license, I got 3 copies because you just don't know who's going to need what when, and then when you request a duplicate later, it says duplicate. It's not original.
Well, you had to send it off for your cedula.
I had to send it for my cedula.
They sent it back.
Yeah, thankfully.
But
that's not always
what
the
if
case.
that doesn't? Yeah.
I'll say the United States Army does not send your paperwork back to you.
Oh, yeah. We have to go get your cedula. This has been the longest. I've never seen anything like it. We can't even get a hold of anybody at the Colombian consulate in Chicago.
Yeah. So I mean,
yeah.
If you've been with us for a little bit, you know that I went to DC, got my passport, got my cedula. They mailed the passport. You have to pick up your cedula in person. They asked me where we wanted to go. I said Chicago because I could drive that.
4 hours.
Right. Easy peasy. You're required to make an appointment in order to do that. I have a ticket in both DC and Chicago for this appointment with zero response, and that started in March. And I'm
have to intervene.
pinging them regularly. It's frustrating, but
I may have to intervene. Not that I may get anything, but like I would just
do it.
I'm just pretty blunt.
Just get it done. I mean,
So-
I have zero issues with my girl taking charge and getting it done.
True that.
His steak's undercooked. I would just eat it anyhow. You're like, nope, make this right.
Nope, he needs a new steak. Absolutely.
Right.
So, just so everybody knows that your health certificate does not need to be notarized at all. It does not need to be stamped by the Colombian consular office either. So,
how about translated?
No.
Okay.
And reason B, I don't think so.
It doesn't stipulate.
Right? But the next. Speaking of that, this is a 6-page form that your USDA accredited vet has to fill out as well. Now, this is Colombian paperwork specifically. It is in English, also in Spanish. 6 pages. So, and it says the country of origin. So this is what you're going to give to when you go through customs. So this is a paperwork. I would keep 2 copies of this as well in your backpack or whatever, and being able to present one when there. But the certificate and this paperwork, to my knowledge, right now is all we need. Listen, things in Latin America can change on a dime.
Yes.
So, yeah, you have to have a rabies certification as well. That has to be up to date. And then this also has to be signed by your accredited vet. So, that's, yeah.
Short and skinny of it.
So it's a lot of paperwork, but I think.
I'm going to go grab the door.
Is somebody here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Keep on.
So anyway, if you, she's such a great alert dog, and that's really the only time she barks is to let us know somebody's at the door or outside. And then you heard it. It's just a little woof, and then she's done. And so we were concerned about stuff like that, thinking about our Airbnb and, making sure we get a pet sitter while we're there. And speaking of pet sitter, our next episode, we are going to be talking about hiring a personal assistant. Where can we go to do that? Agency, how much is it going to cost? Things like that. And this is a way that Chad and I, can contribute to a Colombian there. Like we're able to help them make more money and help them with their life. For whatever. And it'll just be part-time. We're only going to be there for 3 months, but we also wanted somebody to help translate for us. So we're going to be talking about that next week a little bit more. We'll keep you updated with Sadie, but she has lost some pounds, I'm happy to say. Yes. And she's doing really, really well with her training and getting right back into the swing of things. So, yeah.
That's all. That's it. I mean, there's a lot to it, but we also went in detail. At the end of the day, 6 pages, but educate yourself. What are the requirements?
Do your due diligence, because your pet's going to be different. What if you don't have a service animal, which is most people?
Totally different circumstances.
Different circumstances. You're going to need to make sure that you know how much all of those fees are going to be and costs are going to be. And listen, this is going to cost us some money too.
Yep.
So nothing is free like that when it comes to travel. And you also want to make sure, the last thing I do want to talk about really quick is TSA.
Yeah.
And getting, if you have a service dog and getting through TSA, this is really important. We've been working with this as well. So we get complete strangers, like I say, to just pat Sadie down and act like they're a TSA agent and they're just patting her down or whatever. They will either stand over her or they will squat down. A lot of dogs do not like it when you lean over them. So your dog, your service animal needs to be extremely comfortable with that. A lot of people don't have their service dogs trained. Not here to judge, just know that there are guidelines of how your dog needs to act. And because there are people out there with dogs that are acting up and not following the rules, it's kind of hurting
right those who need it,
those who really really need service dogs.
I've got the screen share from TSA
awesome.
up, so let's just take a look at that quick. So we did pull this up. It's got things that you need to know about TSA. So there's the airline, there's the other country as you're coming in, and then there's on the US side TSA going through security. So with security, they made theirs super simple, straightforward.
It is nice.
That's kind of what you would expect for it to be, but you also have to keep in mind their, I don't want to say jurisdiction, but what their function is for is that security checkpoint.
Yeah.
Before and after, now you're in the airline side and before you're in the public side. So you need to inform your TSA officer that you have service animal.
How long beforehand do you need to call and let them know?
Well, okay, so this sheet or this page doesn't say that part of the requirement, but I think it's 48 hours that you need to let them know that you're going to be traveling. It helps to prepare them to let them know there is a service animal coming through.
So you can do that a couple different ways. You can TSA pre-check.
Yep.
So when we go in to book our flight and all that kind of stuff, you check the service animal there. Then you're going to alert them 48 hours ahead of time. And they're going to alert the airlines as well, which is really important so that accommodations be made. We could potentially be put in seats where there is a lot more room for to be able to have a space.
And we can request that while booking as well.
We can.
So, okay. And then screen, there's standard and TSA pre-check, but it's saying those are one and the same as far as what you need to tell them. So you and your service animal will be going through the walk-through metal detector. So not to put your arms up in body scanner. You'll be going through the metal detector. You can walk together, or you can lead the animal through separately on a leash. That'd be kind of a difference of the type of equipment your animal is using, whether you...
Metal.
Right. Some harnesses are going to be more metal heavy, some are not going to be. And if you do alert the metal detector, you and your service animal will then go through additional screening, which could be pat downs for you and your animal. So that's why we're preparing all of the scenarios. They suggest using equipment that is very minimal, just to not alert and make it easier for everybody.
You can take your vest off your service animal. I don't recommend it. If that dog is labeled as a service dog, as long as you have that vest on. The minute you take it off, you may never know. So just try to keep it on if you can.
You still, as a as a human, as a traveler, can opt to not go through a metal detector, in which case you then go through the pat down.
Yep.
Okay. And then they specifically say TSA will not separate you from your service animal. So there might be that short distance if you do screen human and animal separately, but you won't be separated from them. Your service animal will go with you regardless, even if you have to go through additional screening. And it just goes through a list of the things that you can and cannot bring. Leashes, backpacks, vests, other items, all of that is subject to screening. Consider using items that don't have a lot of metal. So TSA, super simple, right on their website. It's less than a page.
Does it say anything about food?
No, but you can have food, and it's actually suggested for the plane ride to have high value treats because you want your animal to be very comfortable, especially temperature changes.
Right.
So that could be a fanny pack. It is subject to screening as well, but you're welcome to just strap on a fanny pack, have all the stuff that you need, poop bags, paper towels, hand sanitizer, all the stuff that their fold up water dish.
Yeah, we do have a collapsible.
Right. All of those things. Yep. All of those things are things that you can take with you. They just are subject to being what's the word I'm looking for? Scanned, looked over as well.
Right. And so we've, along with that, speaking around the luggage piece, we're going to have 2 carry-ons, 2 really large suitcases that we will check, and then backpacks.
Yep.
You're checking all 4 pieces of luggage, and then the backpacks we are carrying on, correct?
Correct.
And then what do you want to carry in your backpack that's easily accessible for your dog? So
right.
You want to make sure that you're leaving room in your backpack for, a little baggie of food. And for a 3.5-hour flight, I'm just going to carry high value treats for Sadie. Depending on what time it is. I mean, if it's midday, she's going to get her lunch hopefully before we get on the plane. But I don't think for us a 3.5-hour flight's not that big of a deal.
And you know what? They as much as they love to consume, I'm watching my wording because she's got her eyes on me.
Yeah, you cannot say FOOD.
Right. She can also, for a 3.5-hour flight, wait a couple of hours.
Wait.
She'll be perfectly fine. Right. Yeah. And in fact, it might be better. I don't know. She kind of crashes after she has her meal. So, but all that does is that creates a potential scenario where then she needs to use the restroom. And if you're on a longer flight, now you're running into an issue that could have been controlled differently. So.
And we have to be there, I think they said 2.5, 3 hours early with a service dog. So that's going to be a total of like 7 hours of flight by the time you get off the plane, and even be able to get outside to relieve her, which she can do. But we want to make sure that we've taken her for a really good walk and we run her that morning.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So one of the things that we're definitely doing, and we have a travel agent that's helping with all of this, is not having a 8 or 10 a.m. flight. We're going to have one where we can make sure she gets exercise and is essentially ready for her nap so that she can go to work, get us through the airport, get on there and be comfortable just crashing out.
And so if you're somebody that's looking for those really, really cheap flights, and good for you because flights can be really expensive, just be aware if you have a service dog and you're leaving out really, really early and you haven't prepped your dog well enough, could be a little potential there. But I think a lot of service dogs are very well trained and they're absolutely great and they're really needed for people that have disabilities. So, all right, guys, that's all we have today. Next week, like I said, we're going to be talking about hiring a personal assistant and what are we personally going to use that personal assistant for. So more about that next week. So until next time, guys, keep expanding your minds and living beyond the desk. Have a great week.